Well, welcome everybody. So glad you could join us this evening. We are so excited to be welcoming back Liz O'Donnell, founder of Working Daughter, for the second webinar with Northbridge. Liz is a nationally recognized expert in caregiving and work-life balance. Her community, Working Daughter, supports millions of women balancing careers, caregiving, and family by offering tools, insights, and supportive space. As we find ourselves in the middle of the holiday season, we wanted to bring Liz back to share her tips and advice on how to navigate the craziness of the holidays while balancing the caregiver, career, and family responsibilities. We will have time at the end of the webinar for some questions, but we also invite you to visit Liz's website, Working Daughter, to learn more about her community or to visit Northbridge's website if you're interested in learning more about the benefits of senior living during this holiday season. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat at the bottom of the screen, and we'll do our best to answer all the questions at the end of the webinar. And without further ado, Liz, I welcome you back. It's great to see you.
Thanks, Mel. It's great to be back, and I look forward to working with you. I know you'll jump in and provide as much expertise. So everybody's getting 2 for 1 today. So hello, everybody. As Mel said, I'm Liz O'Donnell, and I have been a caregiver 4 times over to both my parents, an aunt, and my spouse. And this picture in front of you is from my house. That's my kitchen last year at Christmas time. And the house has been in our family for 96 years. So since it was built, my great-grandmother bought it from the builder. And she threw a Christmas party that first year in the house. And then her son had the house after her, and he continued the party. And then my parents bought the house and raised me there, and we had the party. And then when I bought the house with my husband, he said, "I don't think I want to host a Christmas party." And I said, "Well, it comes with the house." So 96 years of holiday parties in this house. And I tell you this because in a few minutes, I'm going to talk about how unimportant traditions are. And some of you might find that shocking, but you're talking to someone who's in charge of a now 96-year tradition. And so I want, when we get into traditions and how I feel about them for caregivers, I want you to know where I'm coming from. So tonight I have 3 goals for us. One is, let's talk about how to create a holiday that actually works for you, the caregiver. Let's talk about how to celebrate the holidays without losing our minds, because as Mel said, it is a crazy time. And answer any questions you may have, because I think that's where the real meat usually comes in. So happy to answer any. So when I talk to family caregivers and through all of my years as a caregiver in the holidays, there are 3 sort of main categories I find that make the holidays stressful. The expectations that we put on ourselves and that we feel from others around the holidays, family, right? Enough said right there. And grief. I think it's really important that we recognize that holidays can be major triggers for grief, not just for the people who are no longer with us that we wish were, but we're often also grieving how holidays used to be, maybe. And as people in our family have different limitations, as we have different limitations on our time, our money, whatever it might be, all of these, this is all an expression of grief, or this is grief that we're feeling, even though we may not recognize it. Sometimes I think people feel grief during the holidays because they never quite had the holiday they always, back to expectations, expected they would have. But anyway, it can be a fraught time. So I'm going to break down those 3 areas tonight and what we can try to do about them. When it comes to expectations, my framework for this is revisit, reframe, and then revel. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what that means. I believe he was a British poet, Alexander Pope, and he's quoted, or he's supposedly said at some point, "Blessed is he who expects nothing, for he shall never be disappointed." And I just throw that out there as we lead into expectations and we talk about it, because I think it's a good reminder. But the fact is that most of us do have expectations about everything, right? So what do we do about them? first of all, we revisit them. And the way I revisit holidays is to ask people to talk about or think about whose holiday is it anyway. And what I mean by that is, I think it's impossible for us to try to make holidays all things for all people. And I think it's healthy and okay as caregivers to decide who's going to be at the center of the holidays for you this holiday season. It could be the person that you're caring for. It could be somebody else, and perfectly acceptable answer. It could be you. It is perfectly okay to put yourself at the forefront of the holidays. And, as I think about my own competing holidays during the holidays, I personally haven't put myself first for Christmas because I feel this sort of responsibility carrying on the family tradition and the party. But over the years, who I've put at the forefront of the holiday has changed. When my kids were little, certainly it was all about making the magic for them. And my parents were sort of on their own to get, to drive the hour, to come up, to visit us, to sort of work things into their schedule. As my parents got older, I really wanted them to have a wonderful holiday experience, in their family home. And I would actually leave right after the gifts were opened on Christmas and drive, be gone for 3 hours to go get them and pick them up because it was the only way they were going to experience the holiday. Caused a little bit of stress with my husband as I left him to plan the party, but I was clear that my priority for the holidays were them. Sadly, a couple years ago, my husband passed away, and the holidays again became centered around my kids. I had an offer from some cousins to offload the holiday party to another house, and you know what? I kind of might have loved that. But my kids wanted things to be as normal as possible, so the party became about me again. And the reason I bring all this up is when we think about who the holiday is for, then we can really start to think about, okay, so what time makes sense? What level of activities make sense? Who are we going to worry about and accommodate, and who can either come along or not come along? What is the menu going to be like? Over the years, as people get older and their limitations arise, we might have someone who's sundowning with dementia. So the party was always at 4. Well, guess what? This year it's at 1. And everyone else, like I said, can either come along or not come along. And tonight is all about permission. I really want to give you permission to figure out who this holiday is for you, and then plan around it. And again, reminder, it is perfectly acceptable for the holiday to be about you. And believe me, I don't tell you that I don't make Christmas about me to be a martyr, because Thanksgiving is all about me. I say yes to the invitations I want. I eat what I want. I say no to the invitations I don't want to. And my kids can come along or not come along, but I do center myself for one of them. So I think it's a really helpful strategy to think about who that is. And then tradition. I mentioned I was going to talk about traditions. This is my revelation. Traditions are meant to evolve and to change. And if you think about it, every tradition started somewhere, right? They just haven't been in existence forever and ever, which means they usurped some other tradition. And even in my family's 96-year family tradition, I found out recently in talking to some of my aunts and uncles, my great-grandmother started the Christmas party as a poker game. We don't play poker on Christmas. I mean, I had no idea it was a poker game. And we're already planning now. My cousins and I are planning the 100th anniversary in a couple of years, and we're going to bring some poker tables in, even though none of us know how to play. But for years, I had no idea that was the tradition. At some point, the next host decided they didn't want it to be that. When my parents threw the party, it was sort of a formal event, and we were forced to stand around the fireplace and sing Christmas carols in velvet dresses. And when my husband took the party over, he was a great cook, and it became all about the food and a real casual environment because he was a real casual guy. So even though we have this tradition, it has shifted and changed over the years. There was even one year when my poor mom showed up on Christmas Eve and fell off the back stairs and broke her hip. She was about 82. And so on Christmas Day, I took the whole family and all the gifts into the hospital, and I had the kids open the gifts there. I said Santa had gone to, Nana's hospital bed instead of the house. And when my cousins showed up, they let themselves in the house and they planned and had the party without me. So traditions constantly shift and evolve. And you can always come back to them if you want. You can always scrap them if you don't want. So I say, don't, prioritize who, don't let traditions hamper you. And then think about people's limitations is the next piece. Especially when we're caregiving and we have somebody who might have some limitations. We might have some limitations, as I said. Then I think we can start to think about, okay, how do we plan for them? If we have someone in our family with dementia, it's important to think about honoring their routines as best as you can, not overstimulating them. We have a raucous Yankee swap in my family. It didn't work for my aunt for a couple of years. And so one cousin would take her aside and sit with her in another room, even though for years my aunt had been the center of causing all the chaos during the Yankee swap. But as her cognitive impairment increased, we had a new plan so she wouldn't be overwhelmed but could still participate. My mom always wanted to help out when she came up to the house. And even though my husband had everything under control and didn't want his mother-in-law, just give her a task. We would just give her a task. I mentioned routines. Travel might become tough. Timing, as I mentioned, sundowning, you might need to move the party earlier. So it's really important to think through what the limitations are. Hearing is a big issue in my family. And I noticed a couple years ago, I redid our kitchen and I hadn't put down any carpet. And the echo in the house, an entire generation walked around Christmas night going, huh? Couldn't hear anything. And so, I immediately carpeted for the next year. Speaking of carpets, I also have some, which I think are pretty cute, throw rugs. And no one gets to see them because we have some family members in their late 80s on canes. And so one of the things we do every year is we think through the floor plan and are there any fall hazards, thinking about mobility, diet, balance. I was at Thanksgiving the other day, and one of the younger cousins who hasn't been through caregiving and elder care yet, her parents are the youngest in the family, and she had music playing very loudly. And those of us who are caring for some of the older aunts and uncles or our own parents, kept telling her to turn the music down. She didn't quite get it yet, but it was inhibiting conversation for the whole family. So really important to think through what are those limitations. And I'll talk about how we then can communicate that to everybody else in the family. And then, don't make me go all Charlie Brown on you, but I think it's also really important to think about, what is the holiday really all about for you and for your family? And it's different things for all of us. For some people, holidays are all about their religion. And for other people, it might be about being of service. And for other people, it could just be about a party or being with family. But important, I think, to think as a caregiver, especially with so many competing priorities, what does the holiday mean to you? And so therefore, let that dictate the what, when, and where. And maybe you don't do the holidays the way you used to do the holidays, but you still at its core are celebrating it in the same way, if that makes sense. If you were a family that's of service and you always went into a soup kitchen, but maybe all of the family members can't do that anymore, you can still find a way to be of service and to give back to the community in a smaller way, in a way that takes in limitations. So I think we get so wrapped up. I've watched every Hallmark movie that there is this past week. That's how I spend my Thanksgiving. I keep looking around and going, I need more lights. I need more lights, because the houses on those shows are just decorated to the nines. And there's so much coming at us about the holidays and expectations. But when I really think about it, all the holidays are about for me is opening that door and letting people into my home and being with family. That year that my mother was in the hospital, I hadn't done the last minute cleaning. So when those cousins showed up, they saw what happens when you open up my cabinets and all the pots and pans fall out. Oh, well. And in fact, since my husband died, you saw that food on that picture. I can't cook. The only thing on that counter that came from me was a salad. That party happens to me and for me with my family, because they know that if they relied on me, would probably be getting pizza and takeout. So the party happens around me, and I've just learned to really let go. I unlock my door and people come in, and that's what Christmas is about for me. So this is the formula, in my opinion. what is Christmas or Hanukkah or Thanksgiving or any holiday truly about for you? For you. And it's going to be different than it is for me or anybody else. So it doesn't matter, but you know your answer. Then layer on what are the limitations? Well, no, then next, who are you prioritizing? Then layer on those limitations around that and let all of that dictate how, when, and where you celebrate your holidays. That is my advice to caregivers because all year long, you're go, go, go. And this does not have to be an extra layer. And the mental load that we carry around everything that needs to be done is just overwhelming. And I always say caregiving is an energy game, and we need to preserve our energy, especially at this time of year. And
Mhm.
think about, you know, an example, I guess, of thinking about what the holidays really mean, and then the when and the where. After my mom died, Christmas is a non-negotiable. It's in my house, whether it's clean, whether I'm home, whether there's any food, right? That's a non-negotiable in my family. But all of the other holidays were up in play. And after my mom died and my dad moved into a wonderful senior living community just up the street from me. So it was easy to get him home, back to my house for holidays. Well, define easy, right? I mean, it was get him in the car and make sure he didn't fall, and it took him hours to get ready, but easier than, we weren't talking about travel or long distance. But I found that it was nice to have holidays in his home because it did a number of things. We were able to incorporate his new friends into our holiday celebration. And it really cemented the fact that his home was his home, not just the place he stayed until he could get out to see family. And so my kids and I had many Thanksgivings and Easters with him. Sometimes, would rent or block out the private dining room that they had and just have family in. And sometimes would sit in the dining room with everybody else and meet. And my kids would get to meet all of the people that he spent all of his time with. And the Easter Bunny came, and my stoic, serious dad actually laughed and had a good time and posed for pictures. And so I truly, truly believe that when we're dealing with an elder population who may have some limitations or challenges around the holiday, there is just the only limits I think we have as far as enjoying the holidays are the limits that we put on ourselves. And so I think, the holiday can happen anywhere. And I also think it's pretty wonderful sometimes when the holiday happens in the people we care for's actual homes as well. So I happen to love this photo.
Great photo.
Thank you. Thank you. So then there's family, which can be a little more challenging, right? And I think the framework for dealing with family around the holidays, you can avoid them. I mean, you can. Again, tonight is all about giving you permission. And if family isn't working for you around the holidays, I know it's easier said than done in a lot of cases, but you can not participate with family. You have my permission to do that. We can try to enlist their support and assign them, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like. And then ultimately, we have a decision to either, adapt or attack. And I highly do not recommend attack. The holidays are already such an emotionally charged time. My strategy when it comes to emotionally charged times and family is to let things be the duck, like let things roll off my back, and try not to do anything to long-term damage a relationship in a heated, sort of highly charged time. So I prefer just to, get a little hard of hearing myself, not really hear what they have to say, and just smile and go with the flow. But it's your choice. This is all about choices tonight. But let me talk a little bit more about assigning and what I mean there. So assigning I like alliteration, so it covers a lot of things. But it's about when we are the primary caregivers, that's saying that there's always one primary caregiver in a family. If that is you, and you are responsible for somebody during the holidays, then I think it's important that we do our best, whether or not our family members listen, but we do our best to appraise family members of the limitations that we've talked about. I know we've always had the party at 4, or we've always gone to services at 1, but this year we're looking at a morning service or an early afternoon party. And dad's incontinent right now. So, we are going to have a very short gathering, or we're going to gather at his place instead of our place, whatever it might be. Ask for, so appraise people of limitations that you might be really aware of as the primary caregiver, but they may not be. Maybe explain what might happen, with some cognitive impairment situations. Mom might laugh inappropriately, or, at different times, or she's bringing a stuffed doll with her this year. And that's perfectly normal. And I just want you to know that. And, ask for understanding, both about the person you're caring for and for you. Hey, I'm really frazzled and I'm going to be wearing pajamas. And my main priority is going to be mom. And I just want you to know that. I remember showing up once in the height of my caregiving years to a holiday at my sister-in-law's in jeans and a big comfy sweater, when I had for years dressed, and she was really upset for years because the caregiver showed up tired. But you know what? I didn't explain to her what was going on. Whatever. Again, that's where we adapt. Whatever. Right. And then you can ask for help. We can always ask for help. Whether or not you get the help is another thing. And that's, again, we have a choice how we respond to other people's reactions. I always ask for the help. Hey, could you bring something? Hey, could you, pick mom or dad up and drive them? When I would bring my father to my house for this big party, when he had dementia, I would ask my sister, who didn't see him as often during the year because I was running the party, can you be the one to, walk beside him, keep an eye on him if he goes to the bathroom, make sure he doesn't fall, make him a plate. So it's okay to ask for help. It's a good idea to ask for help. You don't always get it. And when you do get it, it might not be the way you would do things. But again, it's just one day, and that's okay. It's totally okay. So, um, so, you know, um, ask and then adapt. Again, I don't recommend blow-ups during the holidays, even though you might want to. That's your choice. And then there's grief, right? And this is probably the hardest one, because grief is just really, really hard. And I talked about, the many different ways that we might be feeling grief, or reasons that we might be feeling grief over the holidays. And I think the most important part of this framework is rest. Grief is exhausting. It tires us out, whether we're aware of that or not. It is physical implications on our bodies. So if there's ever a time and a holiday to let some things go, to use gift bags instead of matching wrapping paper and bows, don't wrap, don't buy gifts, whatever it might be. Don't plan the big dinner, don't have the multiple nights of celebration. If there's ever a time to scale back and rest, this is a great time. And remember, again, that if you choose to change a tradition, doesn't mean it's forever. And you're not the first person to change that tradition. So even though, you might have a family member who, we have to do it this way. Well, we didn't always do it that way, and that's okay. The most important thing, I think, if you are grieving during the holidays, is to understand and accept that it will feel different. It won't feel the same. There's something missing that you are grieving, usually a person. So give yourself permission to, like I said, pause a tradition, to change a tradition. I see this conversation in the working daughter community all the time. My mother or father or somebody just passed away. Our holiday is coming up, and I am just not feeling it this year. Can I stay home? You can do whatever you want. Grief is a very personal time, and it takes some time. And again, just because you change something this year doesn't mean you won't. I hate telling caregivers to prioritize self-care, because we all know that we need self-care. It's how do we find the time? But during a holiday, when you're feeling grief, great time for naps, great time for meditation apps, great time to get some quiet time, go for walks. I had a therapist tell me, when I was going through a particularly tough time when my husband was diagnosed with cancer, she said, double down on the self-care. And I said, oh, okay. And then I said, I don't actually know what that means. But by trying to achieve what I thought it meant, I was taking care of myself more than I might have. So double down on your self-care. And then gratitude. I heard about it from Oprah for years. I thought it was just a gimmick. It is a powerful, powerful tool, especially when we're feeling like maybe there isn't something to be grateful for. So I highly recommend during the holidays, especially if you can take a couple of minutes when you wake up and when you go to bed, just three things. Think of three things that I'm grateful for. Mornings are easy for me because my robe is red and I love coffee, and red is my favorite color. So I always start with, well, I'm grateful for the color red and I'm grateful for coffee. And then I can usually find a third thing. And you know what? Those things really do make me happy. And once you start the list, more and more things come. And then remember to rest when you can. So to recap what I've been talking about, for me, the formula for caregivers getting through the holidays. I can give you tips and tricks about, how to wrap quickly or how to make store-bought food look homemade. I'm actually a pro at that, but I really think it's more about our mindset and about giving ourselves permission to make the holidays what we need them to be for us this year. Not talking about every year, but just this year. So first, what does the holiday really mean to you? And how can you still fulfill that even without all of the things that might make you exhausted and overwhelmed, even without running out to the mall and going to the grocery store a million times? There are ways to fulfill what it truly means to you in simpler ways. Highly recommend choosing that person that you center the holiday around. Again, it can be you, and that's a wonderful thing if it is, especially for caregivers who are usually centering their whole lives around somebody else. It's totally wonderful if you say, I've been doing this all year. This is about me this year. Highly recommend it. Then, both accepting for ourselves and adapting to the limitations of the people we care for. It is normal and okay and common to say, just want one holiday where I don't have to get up extra early and drive over to, mom's senior community and load her up into the car with the walker, and just once where I wish I could just sip hot cocoa. Those feelings are totally normal and okay. Totally normal and okay. And once you sort of express them, then say, okay, this is what my holiday looks like now. It's not going to look like this forever, but this is what it looks like now, and adapting to those limitations. And then permission, permission, permission. Move the holiday. One of the tricks that I used when I just wasn't feeling it, after, people I loved had passed away, was to tell myself, Thanksgiving is just a Thursday in November. It's just a Thursday in November. And maybe there'll be a Wednesday in February where I'm really feeling thankful, and I'm going to gather people together, or I'm going to do some of my old traditions. So if you're not feeling it this year, reframe it. Just a Wednesday or a Thursday or whatever day of the week your holiday happens to fall on, and move it. Move it to a time when people can get together, when somebody is not in the hospital anymore, when the flights aren't so expensive, when you have less going on. A lot of people, the holidays, especially the winter holidays, are also coupled with end of year requirements at work and responsibilities at work, and everything comes at once. So Christmas in July, I mean, it's not just about the sales. It makes sense. So move it, change it, skip it. Sounds like a kid's game. Anything you want to do. Then block out the opinions, because people will have them. People will have them. Because things have always been this way. We always use mom's china. Dad always sits there. Just, we really have to, I think, dig deep into our resolve as caregivers. We are stronger than we think. There's a reason we are the chosen ones. I truly believe that. And this is a time to dig into that. Again, for what it's worth, I know you've never met me, but you have my permission to do those things this holiday. And then, of course, anywhere you can simplify. This mental load, Mel and I were talking about this the other day, and you brought up that term, Mel, and it's so true. It weighs us down, and it clouds what everything is really all about. So that's my 2 cents. The other day, I came across this article that I was quoted, and I don't remember, and it was about caregivers and the holidays and any advice for them. I don't remember doing the interview, and I don't remember saying this, but I was quoted in this article as saying, scale back on everything but the love. And like I said, I don't remember saying it, or talking to this reporter. So who knows if I was misquoted, but I'll own it because I actually really like it. I think it's a good strategy. Everything we can scale back except the love that we want to give to people during the holidays. And
And
so those are my tips. And hopefully there's some questions. I know I went through that a little quickly. Like I said, I can also talk about making store-bought food look more homemade.
Liz, I think I've been writing a few notes just on a few things that you said. I think your very first topic about permission and traditions. I myself is in the caregiver of an uncle and his husband, and I've gone through in this last year a major life change. And one of the things I realized as a caregiver is you have to allow yourself the permission. You have to believe in it. And
Mhm,
I used to be the one accommodating for everybody, but
mhm,
speaking of traditions, we've had a family tradition for years, and this year I got the courage to ask a family member, could you do that earlier for us? The
mm,
time is not going to work. If you want us there, it's going to have to be different. I have to tell you, like, it took everything for me to say that, but the relief that I had and the acceptance on her part was, of course, I should have done that immediately, And so that tradition, I've asked her to basically change. My family does a Yankee swap as well. We usually do it at dessert, but I asked her
mhm,
to do it at during the appetizers instead. And so the tradition, it's okay. And I could relate so much to what you were saying. It is okay to change your traditions. I know with my uncle's dementia, on Christmas Eve, which was his favorite part of the holiday, I'm going to go down to the Cape during the day because he's better during the day to
yep.
take him out where he will remember it a little bit. He will find joy in it. Whereas if we did it in the evening, to your point, with, dementia, it can be very confusing, the sundowning. And
Mhm,
then I just had another experience with a cousin who, my godmother at Thanksgiving is a very proud woman, beautiful woman, 80, God, is she 88 now? And she was very quiet during Thanksgiving. And my cousins realized that she couldn't hear anything.
mhm,
So, and she on her own said to my cousin, I think it's time for me to get hearing aids because I don't want to go through this at Christmas.
mm,
So, for anybody listening, if you do have somebody who has been talking about getting hearing aids or getting it checked, that is a very hard thing for seniors with all that commotion. And
mhm,
so it might be, it's still early enough that you could possibly get an appointment because that is something that's very hard, is that hearing loss during the holidays when there's more chatter than they're used to and different tones. And the other thing I wanted to say is that with dementia, for anybody who's gone through a dementia training or joined my journey, there's a lot of different ways that professionals have to show what it's like to have dementia, those extra noises, what things feel like. So if you have somebody in your life that does have dementia and they're going to be included in your holidays, it could be, we at Northbridge have a training on it, Join My Journey. The knowledge what you learn from that really is eye-opening on how what a somebody with dementia is going through in a crowded, louder situation. So
mhm,
it would be you know to Liz's point, ask for help, whether it's asking us if you could do Join My Journey, if it's asking a hearing specialist to work with your senior parent, but and allowing yourself to ask permission to change things as the caregiver. I learned that I'm a crazily independent person, so to ask for help or to change things was huge for me. But I honestly felt like a new person after, like, wow, why didn't I do that many years ago?
That's
So
fantastic.
yeah.
And Mel, let me ask you a question. If your cousin or whoever it was had said no to changing the timing around, What do you think would have
I think
happened?
that's a great question, Liz. To me that, you know, that I think I would have said that I couldn't go. I think I
Mhm.
would have said then, this year we're going to have to not do it. And I'm sorry to say that, but I have to think of myself and my family
Yep. And you could always go back another year.
and go back a different year.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, truly nothing ventured, nothing gained, but in this case, gained, and it wasn't
It
hard. Yeah.
it
And
wasn't.
I truly believe in our family, which is, you know, the Christmas party age, assuming my uncle comes this year, and um, will range from 88 down to newborn. And there's a huge group in their teens to 20s. And I really feel like we are raising good future caregivers because, they know now that we're having dinner earlier. We can't have the music loud. You can have the basketball game or whatever game is played, on, but it has to be muted, and we
Right.
will during the Yankee swap. Yes, we will, even if we're on number 35, hold up every single gift so Uncle Eddie can walk around and see them because one, he still wants the best deal, and two, he couldn't hear any of that as it was going on. And I
Right.
think we're training them. We're I think hopefully raising a compassionate army of the future.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Caregivers do so much more than we even know or
Yes.
see. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, involving the generations is so incredible. I too, it's 88 down to 16 months at my
Oh
holiday.
wow.
So we're in the same boat.
Oh,
Yeah. I wonder if
mm.
there's any other questions. I know Shannon, you're on the line. So are there
Yeah.
any questions for Liz?
Yeah, so just Liz, this person would like your thoughts on how to handle the situation where you want to prioritize someone who it might be their last holiday, but you also have someone who, another in-law who is the same age as the person who might be their last holiday, but they are very ingrained in the traditions they've celebrated. How do you talk to your in-laws about why we might need to make some changes? Or is it okay to divide and conquer? What are your suggestions for handling that situation?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And I would say, first of all, it's always okay to divide and conquer. Um, it's not always easy, and I appreciate that. But it's always okay. And if you think about the evolution of families, and again, this is where traditions continue to change, right? Um, People get married or find partners, and then there are other families that need to be accommodated and incorporated. And their family party could be at the 96 years going on at the exact same time as your family party going on 96 years. There has to be some give and take and some dividing and conquering, as the person who asked the question said. Now, that it isn't always received well. um, and that's where, again, I think we go back to, everybody makes choices, and their choices don't necessarily dictate our choices. Then we also get to, so, we decide we're going to divide and conquer, perhaps. I can't come to your house for all of the nights or for all of the events, or I can only come for dessert, or I can only come for the appetizers. We make that choice. Then they get the choice how they respond. And if they don't respond well, if somebody, you mentioned this in-law might be ingrained in their ways and they don't respond well, and they're not receptive to it, then we again have another choice, right? To how we react to that. And it can hurt, and especially during the holidays, when it seems so obvious that I'm dealing with a hospice situation. Like, how can you not be sympathetic to that? Some people aren't, and especially people who haven't been through end of life, who haven't been through caregiving experiences. I don't know. And Mel, you've been in this industry for a while. Maybe you have the answer. I don't know how we get people to appreciate the experience if they haven't gone through it. I don't think we can fully. Um, so, so knowing that your decision might not be well received, and then it can hurt, it can be frustrating, but I would encourage you to chalk it up to just a lack of understanding, because people might not have been through scenarios like we are, all of us tonight on this call are going through. And so they just might not react in a way that we feel is appropriate to the situation. And, or maybe they have been through these situations and maybe they had a different coping skill and a different way of adapting. None of us face these situations the same way. My point is, I would encourage you, feel your feelings. It's okay and normal to get frustrated by that lack of sort of give and take, but I would try not to hold that over that person forever and know that they probably have all their own fraught feelings around the holidays, or maybe maybe your hospice situation is triggering some grief in their life. And so it stinks, it's disappointing, but I would encourage you, try not to make it a whole story and just make it a bad reaction. And then do what you need to do. And I mean, that's been the theme of this whole night is I think we have to give ourselves that permission to go with our hearts around the holidays and what makes sense. I have one more, I have my own point of view also on this, which is I spent years with my parents doing this to my husband, but it could be their last year, but it could be their last year, but it could be their last year. And then I went through their last years and it gave me this perspective that our relationships with people are not about the last years or the last time or the last moments or the last holidays. It is the whole lifetime of experiences with them. And so now I try to value both the holiday of the person who might have 10 holidays in them left, as well as the person who might have 1 or 2, and not try to put that pressure on myself that this could be it, because reality is none of us know what, anything is going to happen. And I truly believe that those of us who are living healthy, have longer expectancies, our moments matter just as much as those who are at the end. So I say that it's my own point of view, but so that you don't feel so much pressure, because you have been showing up probably for this person all along, not just at the end. So I don't feel like you need to feel that pressure, if that makes sense.
I think it makes perfect sense what you just said.
I think we have maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Liz, what if you're the friend or family member of a caregiver this holiday season, what are your suggestions for, the best ways to reach out and support them? Any kind of little gifts or things that might be helpful this holiday season to remind them to, slow down, practice gratitude? Any, tips or suggestions around that?
I think one of the most meaningful things people can do for caregivers is recognize that in addition to caring, they have to do all the same things that, we all have to do. I remember somebody saying, well, I don't know what to do for them. And I said, well, think about everything you do in a day. And that caregiver has to do all those things too. They have to have shampoo in the shower when they finally get time to take a shower. So, they need help with groceries. They have to have toilet paper in the bathroom when the time comes. I mean, so all of the things that we all, the tasks that we take care of, they need to. So I think it's really meaningful when somebody calls and says, I'm running to Walmart or I'm running to the grocery store. What can I pick up for you? And just knowing that the caregiver might have some limitations of their own around when they can get out, what they can get to. They really wanted to pick up, I don't know, one more thing at the store and they couldn't, and offering and being their arms and legs when they are limited with how they can get out and what they can do. If you're in a relationship with the person they care for and you can sit with the person they care for so that they can get out of the house. I mean, I think as wonderful and as helpful as it is to support caregivers with errands and life tasks that are more easily delegated than actual care. I got so many offers of that, which was wonderful. And I also was thinking to myself, sometimes I wish someone would recognize that I'd give anything to walk through the aisles of Walmart by myself. Just to get out and offer to come and sit and visit with the person that, if it's appropriate based on, the situation. But I think that's how we can encourage self-care. And if that caregiver says, because sometimes those offers come with, but, sometimes someone gives you a gift card, use this on yourself. and you really want to pay a utility bill with it. Or, I'm going to come and sit with the person you care for, but you must go do yoga. If that's not what they're looking for, let them go to Walmart, let them pay the utility bill with the gift that you give them. So just offer time and errands, and then let them use it as they feel it fits in their moment.
Well, I think that covers all of the questions that we had. I don't know if you guys have anything you guys want to share. But thank you so much, Liz, for joining us, and thank you everyone who jumped on for this webinar. It is being recorded, so we will be sharing it for you guys to, rewatch whenever you need to. So be on the lookout for that in your email. But thank you again, Liz and Mel, for hosting this webinar tonight.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Mel.
Thank you, Liz. I always get something out of this, and selfishly, that's why I love to do it with you, because a lot of the notes were for me. So I appreciate you, and we wish you a very, very happy holiday season, and have a blast at your party. And to all of you that joined us on this webinar, take a deep breath, give yourself permission, realize that a tradition can be different, and focus on yourself as well as best you can. So happy holidays, everybody. Enjoy.
Thank you.